Welcome everybody to part 3 of our dating skills training series. This topic will be covering going on dates, and a really important topic for all of us and any family members that are on is also dating safely. My name is Sylvia Gill. I am the manager of the Daniel Jordan Fiddle Foundation Transition and Adult Series at UM-NSU Card. I love seeing so many familiar faces, and I'm glad you can join us tonight. So a little bit about what we're going to be doing. We will be doing some introductions and rules, as well as reviewing some of the things that we talked about the last 2 series. We're going to talk about going on dates, whether you've never been on a date before, or maybe you've had a few not so great dates or a few great dates. We'll talk about each of those steps. We're going to also then focus on dating safely. How do we keep ourselves safe, as well as respecting boundaries and keeping our dates safe as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about recommendations and what are going to be some of these next steps. So some of the rules. During the presentation, as we shared earlier, we want to make sure that you keep your microphone on mute. There are many participants here at the training tonight, and we want to make sure everybody is able to hear and be able to pay attention to the presentation. If you see here on the right-hand corner, it is a lot better for you to use select speaker for the best viewing experience. So that way you can kind of see me being able to present the content and not all of the other participants as well. Feel free if you want to turn off your cameras, that's perfectly fine. Whatever makes you more comfortable. Please use the chat if you have any questions or comments. So like I mentioned, Jennifer, Diane, they are there to answer any of the questions. Another big thing is really try your best. We want to be respectful. I know many of you really feel comfortable sharing some of your experiences or sharing comments. So please make sure that we are respectful within the chat. So a little bit of a review. Remember last semester, every semester our team does a little bit of a series to give you some really helpful tips. Last semester, we did a social skills. So this really is about making friends. And so what I want you guys to do is and we'll send the email later, go back and really look at trading information, maintaining conversations, and handling feedback, because before you can date, we need to cover some of these social skills. And then we have our dating skills bulletin board. Because this is the third, I don't want you to worry if, oh no, we missed the first 2, it's okay. You can go back. There are different presentations that we've done. So Natalie and Jennifer did session 1 and 2. Not only can you see the presentations, you could see the recordings, some visual supports, as well as some information on peers. As you know, this training series is based off our peers program. You are able to, you are able to access some of these programs on the side, and here's some information that we can also send out at a later time. So this is kind of where I need your participation, right? It's really crucial for you to be able to engage, and there are going to be times you're going to see this visual. When you see this, that means I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to really think about it and share it in the chat. All right, Jennifer and Diane will be there, and Jen will be able to share some of your responses. Another symbol that you might see is something that's called risky. All right, so what does risky mean? When you see this symbol, really it's that when you're on a first date or meeting someone for the first time, it may not be a good suggestion. So this kind of symbol, it's really for what you want to do when you've been dating someone for a while, or maybe you were friends with them before, or you've known them for a long time because you went to school with them. So then it's okay to follow these steps. So there are going to be suggestions for a first date, maybe someone you met online, and there's also going to be other steps for people that you've been dating for a bit, or that you've known them, maybe as a friend. So before we really begin about talking about going on dates, I want to review a little bit about how do you let someone know you like them, and as well as planning for the dates. And before we can start dating, we want to start to think, who would be a good person for me to date? So we want to look at someone who actually likes you. is interested in you. And a big one is has common interest with you, right? That you both like kind of similar things. Let's say you really love Harry Potter, you really love video games, comic books. We want to find someone that has some of those similar interests. Is someone that's around the same age as you and is likely to say yes. Now, people that we don't really want to date is someone that doesn't really seem interested in us or doesn't know us, is mean to you or makes fun of you. So if they're teasing you, this may not be a good person that you want to date. Someone that might ignore you or has rejected you in the past, someone that might even take advantage of you. So these are kind of the things that we want to look at as you start to date or open yourself up to the idea of dating. Where do they fall? And where are the characteristics? So is this someone that's, hey, that's a good idea of someone I want to date? Now, you found the right match. Okay, this is going to be the person I definitely want to date. And now we have to actually plan the date. So something Natalie covers in the other training is, what do we plan? And how do we do that? So we want to break it down in the who, what, when, where, how, and really break down planning a date. So who's going to be there? Before you ask someone out, you want to decide, is this going to be a one-on-one date, a group date? Is it a blind date? What is it that you want to plan to do? So before you even ask them out, think of some ideas. What are some activities, especially that you enjoy? Do you enjoy going to the movies? Do you enjoy going for walks or to the beach? So think of some of the ideas of plans as to what you want to do on your date. When is it going to happen? So think about when might be a good time for both of you. So just because it's a good time for you, that may not mean it's a good time for your date. So this is where we have to be flexible. And so we have to make sure it works for both people. So where will you meet? Meet where the date, typically we always recommend, especially someone you don't really know, is meet where the date's going to take place and meeting in a public place, right? A little bit of that risky is if you're on your own, or not meeting in a private area or even in your own home. So how are we going to make it happen? Again, planning for transportations. Do you need tickets? Making sure you have everything, or even reservations. Making sure you have everything, because you don't want to show up and then you're not being able to actually do the date. And that might really put it down on your date and your plans and could frustrate you. So this is kind of our visualization, right? So you can take this visual, it is on our Padlet, and as you plan a date, you can ask yourself the who, what, when, where, and how. All right, so who am I going to date? Who's that right person? And then how are we going to date? Again, if you're not sure and you want to learn more about it, you go back into our bulletin board, see those recordings, see those steps, and being able to do that. So before we begin, we always really like to talk a little bit about caution. We are going to talk a lot about safety today. So 18 years and over is considered the legal age of consent. So what does that mean? For those of you that are over 18, all right, if you date someone under the age of 18, just know that people under the age of 18 cannot consent. So that can lead you into some trouble. So we always kind of recommend, if you are an adult, make sure you're dating adults. Remember, that's part of the who's a good person to date, someone close to your age. Because if you consent in anything, you can find yourself in some legal trouble. You could get into serious trouble if you are, especially anything consenting for sexual, okay? If you're not sure, please make sure you talk about this with a trusted adult, or you can use the chat for some questions. And you're going to hear this a lot. We are reminding you that dating is a choice, just like friendship is a choice. And guess what? Other people, they may not, other people don't have to date you because you like them. So just because you like them doesn't mean they have to date you. And the same thing, just because someone likes you does not mean you have to date them. So for dating, it means both parties, so you and your date, have to agree that this is what you both want to do, right? So now is our question time, all right? So I want to hear all of you guys. This is our think and let's chat. So I want to hear a little bit about you, and Jen is going to share some of your responses. So have you ever been on a date before? Are you guys dating? Have you tried?
Okay, so we got a lot of people saying no, they've never been on a date before, and there are some people saying they don't like that.
Mhm.
A couple of people said yes, they've been on a date, they had a good time, it was fine. We went to the movies. Again, lots of people who have not, and then some people who have. So we have a whole spectrum of it.
Awesome. And so for
Mhm.
those of you that have been on a date, what was that experience like? Was it positive? Maybe were there some
So
mistakes?
someone said some were good experiences and some were bad. Someone hasn't afraid they haven't got that far yet, which is okay. That's why we're learning. Um, a couple people are feeling like they've been out of the dating game for a while, so they're good to be brushing up here. And some good experiences on dates.
Great. And just know all of us experience this, whether we're on the spectrum or not. Dating is very scary, right? We're afraid to sometimes put ourselves out there. We're afraid we might be rejected. We may not really know how to do it. And I think that's why this is really important. It's important for us to talk about what are the steps, how do we do it so we feel more confident in connecting with other people. All right. And guess what? It's okay if maybe you're not ready to date. Some of us may not be ready yet. And I think a big part of it, and what we'll talk about with consent and we'll talk about dating, is you have to do what's right for you. Dating is a choice. And making sure that you find someone that's right. So, thank you so much for sharing. And we're going to talk a little bit about actually going on a date. So, before we even go on the date, we have to prepare. So, there's two ways, right? If we're going to meet at a public place, the first thing we want to do is confirm your plans. Sometimes we could say, hey, we set up the date, we have everything planned, and I set this up a week ago. Well, it's really important a day or two before your date. You want to confirm. Sometimes things happen, right? Unexpected things may happen. This is where our flexibility kicks in. And so we want to make sure that we confirm with the person so that they're still available. Okay. And that may not mean that they're blowing you off, but it may mean that something happened and came up. So that's why we want to confirm. We don't want to show up to the date and then they don't ever show up. And now we're crushed. So this is going to help with a little bit of making sure that we confirm it. We want to use good hygiene, right? Make sure we take a shower, use deodorant, do our hair, maybe shave if we're going to shave, wear clean clothes. And we do that because we want to give a good impression, right? If I'm coming in and look, if my hair is all like this and I'm slouchy, even me giving this presentation, you're going to say, hey, what's wrong with Sylvia? What is she doing, right? So we want to give a good impression, and we want to do that with good hygiene. And we want to dress appropriately for the occasion. Let's say you're going to be doing an outdoor activity. Well, we don't really want to wear heels and a dress because that's not going to be comfortable. That's not matching the occasion. Or maybe we're going to a really nice restaurant and maybe we don't want to wear jeans and sneakers and a t-shirt. So confirm those plans and then making sure that our attire kind of matches the occasion as to what we're doing. So for those of you, again, here's our risky symbol. Yes, as you date, as maybe you become a boyfriend and girlfriend, or you've known this person for a long time, you may meet at your house. Now, for someone that you just started meeting and dating, I don't recommend that. I recommend meeting in public. But if you're going on a date and they're going to meet you at your house, make sure your space is presentable. You don't want your date to come over and kind of see like dishes on the floor and clothes everywhere. You want to make sure it's kind of clean and neat. Your car, make sure your car is also clean. I actually went on a date before, and when I opened the door, there was trash on the floor, dirty clothes, old socks, and I already was like, ew, I don't want to go on this date anymore. So your car, if you're driving, also gives an impression. All right, so your house is picked up if you're meeting at your house. If you're driving and picking up your date, making sure that car is clean. Guess what? I didn't go out with him after that again because he was messy. So having a messy car or home can make your date think that you're a slob, right? Make sure you also want to put away things you don't want to share, see, or touch. Let's say you have a really special collection. If your date comes in and let's say touches it, you might get very upset. And so you don't want to put yourself in that situation. If there is something that is of value, or, hey, I don't really want them to see my comic book collection, my items, my computer, I don't want them to touch it. My suggestion is make sure that you put that away, because it'll come off as really rude if you tell your date, like, hey, don't touch my stuff. You know, it's already going to start off poorly. So kind of take that extra step. All right. So you prepared for the date. You are ready to go on a date. Even if you're a little bit nervous, we're going to break it down for you so that you can see sometimes you really do have such a great experience. It's just a matter of kind of putting yourself out there, right? So we break down our dates into beginning your date, during your date, and how do we end our date, right? So let's do another think and chat. I want you to think about it. And it doesn't mean you, but maybe you've seen this in a movie or a friend has shared it with you. What are some mistakes people make when going on a date? And Jen will share some of your responses with us.
Okay, we've got bad manners.
Yeah.
Making a scene, getting tongue-tied, maybe not listening carefully to a question and having like a wrong response. Someone said info dump, which means sharing too much information.
Oh, yeah.
Asking inappropriate questions, even if you don't realize it. Being mean to a waiter.
That's a good one.
Overreacting. I like that one too. Cursing excessively.
Oh, yeah.
Being too upfront. Wow, you guys have some really great responses. They know it. Yes. Talking too loud in public. That's important to remember. Oh my gosh. Looking at your phone while you're on the date. Love it.
That's a big one.
Talking with food in your mouth.
Yuck.
Yeah. Not letting the other person speak.
Yeah, these are all such mistakes. And sometimes, and it happens to me, I don't realize that I'm making those mistakes. And that's why the tips that we're going to talk about, really, as you go on a date, you really want to make sure that we follow so that we can have a positive experience. And then that person wants to continue to date us as well. All right. So we're going to show you a funny clip. This is Elena. She is beginning her date, but this is going to be a bad example. So as you watch it, I want you to think, and you're going to use the chat. All right. These are some of the questions we're going to ask after I play the video.
Hey, Elena.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. We said 7, right? I got the time right?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Alright, well, should I come in or do you want to go?
Oh, we could just go.
Okay.
All right, everybody, Jen's gonna share. Let's think about this. So after watching this video, what was that like for the other person? So the other person is Gabe, the one who knocked on the door. And we'll start with that. What do you think that was like for Gabe?
It was awkward. A lot of awkward.
Very awkward.
Okay, someone thought Gabe was being rude, but I think the point of the video is really we're watching what is Alina doing. Okay. Oh, and so now someone is saying she didn't invite him in and it was awkward.
Yeah, and what did he think of Elena? So as she's kind of standing there with the door, what do you think Gabe was thinking?
Okay, so someone said was like, really? So it seems like he was surprised, right? Like confused a little
Yeah,
bit.
did you see his face? And I think that's why you guys thought, oh, Gabe's kind of rude, but I think he was like, what's going on?
Okay,
And-
someone, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
And just keep and keep sharing, guys. Do you think he'd want to go out with Elena again?
Someone said no, he would not want to go out with her again. He seemed uninterested, probably not. So the answer is no.
Yeah.
And I think just reiterate, Cece, what was it that she did wrong? Because I think some people are a little confused about the scenario. So maybe
Yeah.
if you
So
want to tell us again.
of course. So thinking of the scenario, I want you, and I want to hear from you guys, looking at her body language when she's beginning her date. What was her body language like? What was she doing with the door?
Yeah, she was like standing on the door, basically, just
Yeah,
holding it.
right? She's standing there and blocking. So it's like she's not really moving. And he's like, "Can I come in?" She's like, "No." And she's kind of blocking, right? So right there, it probably made Gabe feel a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, so it's sometimes that body language that there was no greeting, and we'll talk about what we should do, but I just wanted you to see a little bit of what Elena was doing of blocking it and not greeting her date. All
Yeah,
right.
they got it now. Yeah.
Awesome. Good, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. So let's see, what do we do to begin our date? Now, as we told you guys, if you are meeting someone for the first time, this might be a blind date or someone you met on the internet. Okay, even though you've maybe been speaking with this person for a long time on the internet, you have not met them. If that is the case, we always recommend to meet at a public place. Okay, and that public space should really be where a lot of people might be. So the first thing we want to do is greet your date. Hi, how are you? Maybe sometimes you want to greet with shaking a hand. There are times where people kind of give that side hug. In South Florida, it is sometimes common to give like a kiss on the cheek. So there is that greeting of your date. If this is an online date or a blind date, you also want to introduce yourself. So you greet your date, you introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Sylvia. Nice to meet you. And then we want to confirm and kind of ask about our plans. So we still have those dinner reservations, or are we all set for the concert? Do we still want to watch that movie? And we kind of, ask about the plans that we have for our date. So that's kind of our beginning our date in a public space. So again, here's that little bit of that risky symbol. This is for someone that might be meeting at your home. So again, we want to greet our date. If you notice in the video, Elena never greeted Gabe. It was like, yes, and she kind of blocked him in. So we want to greet our guests and kind of opening them in to invite them inside. Come in and move, kind of shift out of the doorway. If, let's say, your parents are home, you have roommates, that's kind of the time you want to introduce them to anyone they don't know. Hi, this is my mom, this is my dad, and you want to introduce them and maybe show them around the common areas. So it is polite to show them. So hi, this is, here's our living room and our kitchen, and you introduce and show them around. And I would say stick to showing common areas. You might, if you are, let's say, having a date inside your home, you might want to offer them a refreshment. Would you like some water? Would you like a soda? And you may want to offer that. And then you want to, again, ask about your plans, just like we did in the previous step. So we're going to look a little bit about how Elena should have begun her date. Okay. So this is the thumbs up. So this is the way we want to. This is her following the steps. I want you to look at the video, and I want you to, again, we're going to think and chat. What was that like for the other person? What did you think of Elena? And think if you think he'd want to go out with her again.
Hey, Gabe, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, come on in.
Thanks.
So I don't think you've met my roommate before.
No, I haven't.
That's Jordan. Jordan,
Hey.
this is Gabe. And I don't think you've been to my house, so
No,
let me
I
give you a
haven't.
little tour. So the living room's right over here, and the kitchen's that way. Do
Nice.
you want anything to eat or drink?
Oh, no, thanks.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't remember what time our reservations were, but do you want to hang out for a bit or get going?
Maybe we should just get going.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome.
Okay,
After you.
thank you.
All right, everyone. Now that we saw how Elena should begin her date, what do you think now? What was that like for the other person? So the other person is Gabe. What do you guys think?
People said that's better. She did everything right. And we had someone who listed the things she did right, which she introduced him to the roommate. She offered him a drink and she was calm,
Great.
more welcoming.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
followed those steps. And what did he think of Elena?
That she was polite.
Mm-hmm.
He thought Elena was friendly
Good.
and polite. But a lot of people are pointing out that she seemed very polite.
Very polite. And do you think he wants to go out with her again?
Yes, everyone's saying yes, he would.
Good, good. So that's where I wanted you guys to see the difference and how sometimes even beginning your date really sets the tone for the rest of your date. All right. So being polite, being open, and following those steps as well. So that helps out. All right. So we began our date and now we're on our date. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a few tips when you're on your date, what you should do. And the first thing that we really want to look at is showing interest in your date. So if your date is talking about, you know, her job, or they're talking about their, you know, their interest, we want to show interest. And we sometimes really do that by maybe nodding, you know, agreeing, smiling, making eye contact, and you're engaging. And some of you guys had kind of said that, like, oh, one of those mistakes is they're on their phone. So if I'm having a conversation with you and I'm just like, I'm not really showing any interest, or I'm like looking at my watch or just kind of like all over, then your date's going to start to assume, well, I guess that person doesn't like me. So we want to show interest, all right? We also want to trade information at least 50% of the time. So this is one, not an interview where all you do is just ask questions. And it's also not a monologue. So we don't want to spend the entire date talking about something that we're really interested in. We want this to be a back and forth conversation. And if you're not really sure or need a little bit more practice, please make sure you go back to the social skills training and we talk about trading information. Jen does such a great job sharing that with you guys. So we want to share that 50% of the time. Sometimes we want to laugh at their jokes. Now, do I think my husband's jokes are funny all the time? Not really. But sometimes I'm just like, you know, because it also makes them feel good. So I'm not saying to do like, that was funny. You don't want to do it so over, but even a slight smile or a chuckle, it also shows that that you're engaged and you're interested in that person. A lot of you had shared this. Some of those mistakes that could be made is someone being rude, right? And not just rude to your date, but rude to people around. So if you're being super rude to the waiter, to other staff members, your date's probably not going to want to date you again. So we want to make sure that we're polite and that we're respectful. That may also mean opening doors, you know, letting them walk in or helping your date. So keeping in mind that you always want to be respectful of your date. Sometimes you want to ask your date what they want to do. I know many of us, and I am one of them, I like to do what I want to do. But if my date is really interested in, I don't know, let's say going on a hike, right? I don't really want to go on a hike, but my date really likes that. Sometimes I am going to do activities or things that they also enjoy. So ask them. Maybe you planned the first date, allow your date to plan the next thing and let them do what they want to do. Also, I always say you gotta be flexible like a palm tree. You have to be able to go with the flow. When we plan our date, right? We saw that kind of chart and okay, we're gonna first go to the movies, then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna go there. Maybe your date doesn't want to do that. Maybe your date says, hey, let's go run in here. And in a date, you're gonna have to sometimes go with the flow. You gotta be a little bit flexible. And during that time, we gotta keep our cool. Because if I start to yell and scream, that person's probably not gonna wanna date me again. So being able to go with the flow and being flexible during my date. I wanna give my date compliments. Now, we always say be a little bit careful about what you're complimenting. We're not gonna say, and I know we're teens and adults here, but we're not gonna say, wow, you've got a nice booty, right? We don't wanna go there. But hey, I really like your shirt. I love your outfit. Wow, I really love what you did with your hair. And so we wanna be able to give some nice compliments, without it being too derogatory to that person or making that person feel uncomfortable. Another big one, everybody, you don't flirt with other people or invite them on your date. So if you are on a date, and let's say you see someone from your class, and you're on a one-on-one date with that person, you're not like, hey, come on, join our date. We don't want to do that, especially if your date doesn't know that person. So we don't want to invite them, and we don't want to flirt. Maybe that means maybe giving compliments to another person or showing interest in another person while you're on a date. Maintain that focus. You want to keep engaged. And again, that's showing interest to your date only. Another big one is don't ignore your date. So while you're on a date, let's say you are at your house and you have a date at your home and you're so excited to play this new video game, but your date doesn't want to play the video game. So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to play this video game. Well, do you think your date's going to really want to stay on that date with you? Probably not. So really making sure that, is that person engaged with the activity? It's okay to play video games, but you're playing it together. All right. Not making sure that you're just ignoring this individual. So keep that engagement and that interest in your date. If you or your date gets bored, let's say we call it like the lull. It gets a little bit dull and you're not sure what to do. Try to see if you can change it. Suggest a change. Maybe you had planned to see a movie, but it's like, oh, I don't want to see that movie, or it's boring. It's okay. Again, we're going to be flexible and we might want to suggest a change to kind of keep the date going. We want to avoid risky topics and places. What are those risky topics, right? We always talk about that. Avoid politics, avoid religion, avoid, talking even about anything that can be very tough. We want to keep it a little bit light, especially in the beginning when you're starting to date. And risky places, that could be really being isolated, going somewhere by yourself. So as we mentioned before, we want to make sure that we're in public places, that we're in safe places. Also be prepared to pay. If you are doing an activity that may require payment, like going to the movies, a concert, going to dinner, anything like that, even if you are a girl, okay, don't assume, oh, well, the boy pays and he's going to pay. Make sure you have your credit card, any cash, so that you can also participate in the activity. Now, if someone pays and that's very generous, great, that's okay too. But just always make sure you're prepared, especially when you're on your date. All right, those were some dating tips. Now, you've made it through the date, you followed these tips, you were engaged, you were flexible, you kept your cool, you were polite, and it was a really great date, all right? So we made it, but now there's the ending of it. I want you to watch this video of Elena of how she ends her date. And let's say it was a great date, but the ending is the third part. So we got to make sure we do all of these things. And again, we're going to think and chat. As we start to go through this video, think about it. What was that like for the other person? So that's what was that like for Gabe? What did he think of Elena? And do you think he wants to go out with her again?
So that was a really nice lunch. I'm glad we came here. I really like this restaurant.
Well, have a good day.
Thanks. Well, again, thanks for coming to lunch with me. I'm glad I could treat you. Okay.
All right, so that is the way we do not want to end a date. So let's go back to our questions, and Jen is going to share some of your responses. What was that like for the other person? What was that like for Gabe?
Well, so the first few comments were just like, she seems impatient and like she's not interested and like she's not very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And for Gabe, it was uncomfortable. She wouldn't engage with him in conversation. He felt ignored, Gabe did, and it was not nice for him.
Yeah, Elena did not follow our dating tips, right? And what did he think of Elena?
We had a couple people say that she was rude.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, very rude. And people are pointing out that she left without even saying goodbye. Like,
Yeah.
yes. So
So
he,
after all that, do you really think that Gabe might want to go on a date with her?
people are saying no.
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 Okay. So even if they had the best date ever, right? They connected, it was great lunch, they loved it, and she ends it this way, he may not want to go out with her again. So that's why we look at it into 3 parts: that before your date, during your date, and now we're going to talk about how do we end our date. So let's look at it into a couple steps. So step 1, we want to wait for the pause. If we're in dinner and we're having a really good conversation, even if the check comes and things, you don't just get up and leave like Elena did, right? Wait for there to be a little bit of a pause. So we don't want to interrupt it, because if we do interrupt it and just walk away, your date's going to think that you're just not having a good time or that you didn't want to spend time with them. Okay, so kind of wait for that moment. We want to have a cover story for ending the date. So unless the date ends naturally when the activity is over, like a movie, all right, you will need a cover story for ending the date. So some of the things that maybe you want to tell your date is, well, it's kind of getting late, or I guess I better get going, or I have work tomorrow or school tomorrow, so I need to be I need to get going. So that's your cover story, right? You're still interested, you're showing interest because it was a good date, but it is maybe getting really late and you have to kind of get going, or you have curfew. So you want to give them that cover story and maybe have this kind of cover story ready before you go on your date. You want to thank them for going on the date and that you had a good time, right? So in the video, we saw Elena didn't even say anything. She just walked up and left. So by thanking them and telling them, hey, I really had a good time. Thank you for going on the date with me. It makes them feel nice. You know, it shows that you appreciate them. So by telling them you had a good time, it lets the other person know, hey, I'm still interested, and maybe I really want to go on another date. Now, it's happened to all of us where maybe we didn't have such a good date. You don't have to say, oh, I really had a good time. Maybe you didn't, but you could just say, oh, thank you so much for the date. After step 3, you want to start walking out. So wherever the date may be, you want to walk out together. So again, in that video, you just saw Alina leave. What you really want to do is be able to walk, stand up together and walk out together. So if you're walking out of the restaurant or the movie, you can walk out and then you go to your separate transportation or your different cars. Or same thing, walking them to the front door or your front door. So if you take somebody home, it is courteous to walk them to their door, not just kind of kick them out of the car and drive off, right? You want to make sure you walk out together. Step 5, if you like them, so it was a good date, you seem interested, you like them, you may want to suggest going out again. So that could say, hey, you know, I had a really good time. Thank you. Maybe we should do this again sometime, or maybe we can hang out again next weekend. And after you suggest that, this is where we assess their interest. So if they seem interested, maybe we want to follow up with a text, a phone call to make plans. All right. So, you know, maybe after the day, you could say, hey, you know, we had a great time. I would like to hang out. Let's maybe grab a bite to eat. Let's go to the movies, or let's go do something. And that seems that both people are interested. Now, if they do not seem interested, right? So if Elena your date kind of got up and left, or you're not interested, you can just follow up and say, hey, had a good time, or how are you? You might want to follow up but not make plans, all right? See what they say before you make plans again with this person. If you are not interested, so let's say you went on a date. Remember, dating is a choice for both people. You went on a date and you were like, oh, I never want to date this person again. You can move on. You do not have to reach out to that person again, because dating is a choice. Now, looking at step 6, tell them when you'll follow up. So if you like this person, the date went well, you had a good time, you'll tell them, hey, I'll call you tomorrow. I'll text you, next weekend, or we'll talk on Wednesday. So sometimes you want to let them know when you'll follow up and follow up when you say so, okay? But this really, step 6 is for those that want to continue talking to this person. If you are not interested, or that person's not interested in you, that's when we kind of have to be able to move on. And then we want to say goodbye. All right. Again, we pointed out, Elena didn't even say bye to this person. You want to actually be able to say goodbye. This might include a casual waving, I'll see you later. And some of the goodbyes can end with a hug or a kiss. Now, before we hug, have any physical contact with another person, it is really important. We're going to talk more about consent in a little bit. But you want to make sure that you are asking permission for any physical contact, right? Can I give you a hug? Can I give you a kiss goodnight? And be respectful of their answer. So if that person tells you like, oh no, I'm not really ready to do that, or anything like that, you need to be respectful. So I want you to look at this second video and, look at all the steps that Elena follows. Waiting for the pause, having her cover story, thanking them for the date, walking out together. If you like them, again, suggest going out again, tell them you follow up, you say goodbye, and then asking permission, that's the big one, for any physical contact.
Well, that was a really nice lunch.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you so much for taking me out.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
I had a really nice time.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah. Well, it's getting kind of late and I actually have to run. I have class this afternoon.
Oh.
Yeah. But we should definitely do this again sometime.
Yeah, I'm upset.
Yeah.
What are you up to this weekend?
Nothing actually. I'll text you tomorrow. We can figure it out.
Alright, sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Do you want me to walk you to class?
Oh, thanks for asking. It's actually right around the corner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, can I give you a hug goodbye?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, I'll see you later.
Yeah, I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. So Elena did much better this time, right? What did you guys think? How did they?
They had enthusiasm. They definitely think she did better. They both did well, actually. And people are picking up that they got along well. They both seemed interested.
So it was a great ending to their date. She followed all the steps. And that's why we say sometimes dating can be a little overwhelming. There are some of these very small steps that we want to follow. And again, we get better at this by kind of practicing. All right, let's continue. Now, here's our next think and chat. What are some of the ways you stay safe while dating? What are maybe some of the things that you do to stay safe?
Avoid asking weird questions.
That's a good one.
Yeah. People are thinking of, looking behind your shoulder, kind of checking the area around you, maybe when you're walking someplace.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe being alert, paying attention.
Yeah, and those are all great ways to stay safe, especially in a public space or if you're on a date. But I really want to also, we're going to really focus on when I'm going to go on a date. There are people out there that might try to take advantage of us. It happens, whether you're on the spectrum, whether you're neurotypical, it happens to everybody. But there are things that you can do to keep yourself safe. And if family members are on the presentation as well or are watching this, we really want to be able to practice these things and have a plan to keep ourselves dating. And dating is a great experience, but we want to just make sure that we keep ourselves safe.
And people just now have shared that staying in a public place would be
great, right? That's a definitely good one. And we have talked about that. So how do we date safely? This is especially for some of these first dates. So if, let's say, I just met someone, maybe I met them as a blind date, I met them online. The biggest thing to keep ourselves safe is don't share personal information. all right? Like your address, your last name or phone numbers, especially if this is a blind date. So we don't want to give all of our very personal information, like especially our address and things like that. We want to meet in a public space. And then as you get to know this person, then you can slowly start to share more of that personal information, right? We then also may want to do a search. Now, before I say search, we are not cyber stalking. So maybe cyber stalking could be like you're looking at every single post, at every single picture, befriending that person and everybody around you. That's not what we're suggesting, okay? But there is something that you can do is get some background information before you meet. You can check out their social media page. You can Google search them just to see maybe do we have any common interests that we can connect with? Do we have any mutual friends that that we both share? So it's just doing a brief search. That does not mean we are messaging them, befriending them, and liking every single picture, because they're going to say, I don't think I want to date this person. So it's just doing a brief search. Share your location. This is a very important thing that we all should be doing. So if you are going on a date, again, especially someone you're not too familiar and comfortable with, you always want to let your family or your friends know where you are, what your plans are, and if it changes. So let's say you had first planned to meet at the movies, but all of a sudden it changed to go to a restaurant, make sure you're always sharing your location. And the reason we suggest that is because if anything were to happen to you, we want to make sure people know how and where to find you. Another kind of safety tip would be finding your own ride. That way you're kind of in control. If you drive yourself to and from your date, if you're uncomfortable, if you don't, like many of you had said, stay in a public space. And if you're in a car with someone, that is not a public space. So make sure that you have your own transportation, whether that's a parent, an Uber or STS or TOPS, that you have that option. Many of you guys already suggested that, staying in public areas. We want to meet your date in a public space where there's people around, and we really don't want to go alone on a first date. So that also includes going in their car, going to their home, or taking them to your home. If this is a first date, a blind date, or an online date that you don't really know that person, stay in public areas. Now, over time, as you get to know this person, as you become comfortable, yes, it is common for them to go to your home or you go to their houses. But for the beginning, as you meet people, you want to stay in public areas. Check in before and after your date. So if you have a family member, a friend, make sure you just kind of let them know, like, hey, I just got to my date. Maybe if you run to the bathroom and, hey, things are great, and then text them after, great, I'm on my way home. That way, again, it also lets that person know you're safe, but also if you are uncomfortable, let's say you just feel, hey, this date's not going well, I'm not feeling well, maybe I'm getting very anxious, or anything kind of happens on your date, you want to be able to reach out to a friend or family member to kind of help you, all right? So that check-in is important. So that is my safety first kind of dates. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that could happen that we can continue to stay safe, and I want you to just be aware of, right? So before we get into those, I want to ask you, what are some behaviors that can get us into trouble when we're dating, or actions that quickly end a relationship? So what can happen that really, it's a deal breaker, right? It ends the relationship.
Okay, being rude is the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Being creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Inappropriate touching.
Yes.
Cyber stalking. Being aggressive.
Yeah.
Being reckless, going crazy in a public place, not respecting boundaries, making inappropriate comments, putting too much pressure on someone. These are good.
You guys are good. You guys can do my training, right? So these are all really great responses and things I want you to be aware of as you date, all right? So I think the first one that we want to look at, and we have seen this many times, right? We want to be aware Now, I'm not saying everybody's out to take advantage. That is not what we're trying to say, because dating can be a great experience, but we also need to be diligent. We need to be aware that these things can happen. There are going to be people that sometimes will try to take advantage of you, especially financially. So we call that financial exploitation. And we know that's happening because maybe you met them online and you're talking to them and you feel comfortable and they compliment you, they say kind words, they befriend you, and then they ask you for money. Or, hey, can you send me a gift? Can you send me this? Can you wire me money? And that has to be a red flag, right? Here's my little siren that we have in the corner. When someone is really being nice and then asking for money, that's a very big red flag, right? Another one is asking for money in exchange for either inappropriate photos or sexual favors. That is never okay, all right? So we need to also be aware that that's someone trying to take advantage of you. Maybe someone is saying, I have an emergency. I need you to send this money right away, right? So you need to be aware of that. Or tell you they will only date you and talk to you if you pay for my car, I'll go on a date with you. If you pay for my rent, we can date. So all of these things, let's go back to the beginning. Is this someone we want to date? Definitely not. So this is not someone that's going to be a good person to date. It's not a good choice. So any of these things we need to be aware of. And if this does happen, the first thing we want to do is do not send any money. Do not send money until at least you have really talked to not just a friend. We're not talking about friends here. Your trusted adult, a professional, whether maybe that's your therapist you want to consult with, or a family member. So it's, if any of these things kind of happen, we stop and we need to talk to an adult. And never share your social security or any of your banking information. So if right away people are asking you for these things, we need to make sure that we're not sharing that. Another thing I really want to cover is sexting, right? What is sexting? That is sending explicit messages. That is photos of kind of your private areas on any digital device. That includes photos of nudity or showing any simulated sex acts. So this is very dangerous. And the reason it's very dangerous is because if I send a picture on my phone or through email, it is very easily to share. And we want to make sure that even if they say, oh, but I promise I'll never share this with anybody, it has happened many times where then other people then share that because it's really easy to distribute that. Also, no sexting could result in charges of distributing or possessing child pornography. This is for anyone that is under 18. If you take photos, if you distribute that, you can be charged with child pornography. This is a very serious kind of, situation that we don't want to find ourselves in. Also know that bullying, harassment, and humiliation are also common problems when these messages get shared. So I say, here's your rule. Do not send anything you don't want your parents to see, all right? And that kind of gets you like, okay, I don't want my mom to see a picture of my body, so I'm not gonna share that. And a lot of you guys shared this, the respecting boundaries. Just because someone likes you does not mean that they have to like you. And it is okay to feel upset. I have liked someone and they didn't like me and I felt rejected. I felt upset, but it's not okay to lash out at them and yell and scream and say, well, I really like you, and stalk them. You have to respect boundaries. And always say, follow the 2 contact rule. This includes, okay, that's not 2 text messages, 2 calls, 2 emails, 2 social medias, and 2 direct messages. No, 2 contact rule. That includes maybe 1 text and 1 call, 1 email, and friend requesting counts as 1 point of contact. So if I friend request them and then direct message them, that is your 2 point of contact rule. If there is no response, you need to move on. And also understand that a subtle no means no. People may not directly say, hey, no, I'm not interested in doing this. So do your best to be able to follow the body language and never pressure other people that you are dating, right? You got to respect the boundaries. I'm going to go really quick. I know we're a little bit over time. Consent is a really big one. And this is ability to choose based on your experience what you want to do, whether that is physically, emotionally, mentally, and sexually, and being able to communicate that. Just always know, guys, you have the right to say no. Even my males, they may say, oh, but you have to do. No, if you are not comfortable with doing it, you say no. Your date or your boyfriend may pressure you to do things you don't want to do at this time. And then if that happens, we really want to be able to follow these steps. So keeping your cool, telling them what you don't want to do, giving that cover story, changing the subject, and then give a cover story and leave. Because remember that dating is a choice. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to play this video, but please, I want you to look step by step what the video steps that Elena does when handling any type of sexual pressure from your partner. Even if you've been dating this person for a very long time, you have every right to say no. So I want to wrap up with just reminding you, this has been the theme throughout all of our trainings, that dating is a choice. And so is any type of physical intimacy. So making sure you don't do anything that you are not ready to do. All right, everybody. So what is our next steps? Now that we've covered our safety guides, we have covered going on dates, some of the recommendations, we are going to share with you an evaluation, but I really wanted to check out our bulletin board for our training presentations, recordings, visual lists, as well as all these great videos that we share, and really being able to check out the Peers program. There are also really great resources out there. I have loved watching Love on the Spectrum. It really is a great way to see what are some good things that have happened on dates and some like really awkward moments. But I have loved this show. I think it really enlightens us all, especially when it comes to dating. So you can check out some of these additional resources on dating. And know that Peers has an app and it's free. So you're able to look at this Peers app. We will put all this information on our bulletin board for you to be able to go through the curriculum, role play, and brush up on those social skills.